I'm Kerry Swain. On Meridian News in half an hour, will Haslar Hospital be saved? The Health Secretary leaves campaigners confused after his visit to Gosport.
From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Clinton breaks his long silence about Monica Lewinsky. After the leak, Lawrence informants forced from their homes. Prayers in school as the E. coli outbreak spreads. What Lasso and Fowler are saying to each other tonight. Turning back the clock to bid farewell to News at 10. Good evening. President Bill Clinton broke his long public silence about Monica Lewinsky tonight to say he wished her well. He said he hadn't seen her on television talking about her affair with him, but what I hope, he said, is that she'll be permitted to get on with her life, and I hope it will be a good life. Mr. Clinton said that for himself, he wanted to be allowed to get on with being president. Our Washington correspondent James Mates reports.
The Monica Lewinsky Roadshow is on the way again, setting out from Los Angeles on the long journey to London, where she plans to promote the book, to give more interviews, to continue raising the money that will pay off her massive legal bills. As the British edition of the book hit the shops this morning, Americans were marveling at how much interest there still is in her. The interview on US television winning the biggest audience of any TV news program ever. It prompted some extraordinary remarks from President Clinton this evening, making clear there are no hard feelings.
What I hope is that she will be permitted to go on with her life. And I hope it'll be a good life. And I hope that all the people who have been hurt by this, including totally innocent people who have massive legal bills, will get the help they need. And I'm determined to do what I can to help them.
And for that reason, he said he had no objection to the money she might make from the story of their affair.
I don't wish anyone ill who was caught up in this. And she paid quite a high price for a long time, and I feel badly for that. So I just hope it works out all right.
The White House thought it had said all it needed to on this subject. That more than a year later, the American people had had enough. It seems they were genuinely surprised by the frenzy of interest there's been here in the last couple of days, hence today's statement. Bill Clinton will be hoping, though, that on this matter, this really is his final word. James Mates, News at 10, Washington.
It's been disclosed that 12 people publicly identified as police informants in the Stephen Lawrence murder report are to be rehoused. It's because they're now in fear for their own or their family's safety. All lived in the Eltham area of southeast London, where Stephen Lawrence lived and died. Reporting from there, here's ITN's Paul Davis.
When it first became clear that the names of informants had been published along with the Macpherson report, the police were asked to assess the risk to those who'd been named. Tonight, it's become clear that that assessment is that this part of South London is no longer safe for many who've given the police help in the past. A dozen families will be leaving Eltham. The first have already been rehoused away from the streets where they're known. The local authority responding to the fears of informants, like this woman who spoke out after she was named last week.
What I'd really like is to move my family away, completely away from this area. I don't want my family to be put at risk because we stood up for justice.
The local MP says rehousing scared people is the right decision.
They're very anxious indeed, and if they've been asking for assistance such as being moved, then they have my full support in that. And it's a question of dealing with their needs as sympathetically as possible. They're in this situation through no fault of their own.
Today, Doreen and Neville Lawrence were allowed to sit in on the start of the disciplinary hearing against one of the officers criticised in the report into their son's murder. Detective Inspector Ben Bullock successfully appealed for the hearing to be put back to June. The Lawrence family were angered by the delay and a ruling to bar their legal representative from the hearing. Tonight, the Lawrence family's solicitor says he's considering asking for a judicial review to overturn today's decision, enabling him to sit in on the police disciplinary procedure. Paul Davis, News at 10, Eltham, South London.
The number of confirmed cases of E. coli food poisoning in Cumbria rose to 19 today, with 9 more suspected cases. An 18-month-old baby girl and a man of 82 are among those in hospital. Today, some schools in the area were saying prayers for food hygiene. ITN Sue Saville reports from Cumbria.
Connor Bannard was this evening playing happily like any other 4-year-old, but he only came out of hospital this afternoon after a frightening 48 hours of illness. His parents were shocked to be told it was E. coli.
Very worried, scared, especially when we were seeing somebody getting took to Newcastle just as we arrived at the hospital.
It wasn't until we got to hospital and we were told by the doctors we didn't realise how serious it was at all.
First I had a stomach, and then I told my mum, and then I had to go to the hospital. I was poorly.
Children at Brigham Primary School, where 4 pupils were affected, now have personal hygiene included in their prayers.
Help me to remember to look after myself by keeping clean and remembering to wash my hands all the time. Amen.
Amen. The farmer whose milk is said to be the source of the outbreak isn't saying anything. The hope is that those affected by milk from his farm here will now recover.
I think the chances are pretty good because the infection was spotted quickly. So we just have to watch and pray that the children are in the best possible place, and we hope that they will make a full recovery.
Residents in this area served by the infected farm know the emergency may not yet be over. The E. coli bacterium has an incubation period of between 1 and 6 days, and people can pass on the infection without themselves showing symptoms, which means there could yet be more cases over the weekend. Sue Saville, News at 10, Cockermouth in Cumbria.
As we heard in that report, the source of the outbreak is believed to be a dairy farm where the pasteurization process went wrong. Whatever the cause, the outbreak is a reminder of just how dangerous everyday items of food can be if they're infected with this strain of E. coli. Our medical editor Lawrence McGuinty reports.
E. coli is a bug that lives in the gut of cattle. Most strains are harmless to cows and humans. But since the 1980s, a new strain has emerged, called 0157, which can be deadly. All strains can occur in milk. That's why milk is pasteurized. The bacteria are destroyed by being heated to high temperatures. But not all milk is pasteurized, and raw milk carries a risk of infection. But tonight, the government's chief medical officer told me unpasteurized milk will still be on sale to give consumers a choice.
The government recently carried out a consultation exercise on whether raw milk should continue to be sold, and the proposal is that the regulations will be tightened up and there'll be stronger labelling on packets so that people will still have a choice about whether or not to drink raw milk.
Most milk produced in this country is processed at big dairies, but not all. There are more than 32,000 dairy farms in the UK, and just over 2,000 of them, like the farm in Cumbria, pasteurise their own milk. We consume more than 6.5 billion litres every year, and 143 million litres is farm pasteurised.
Currently, there are about 1,000 cases a year of food poisoning caused by this virulent strain of E. coli. A decade ago, there were less than 100 a year. So although this particular outbreak in Cumbria seems to be under control, the Department of Health here is stressing that consumers still need to be careful about hygiene. Lawrence McGuinty, News at 10 at the Department of Health.
The Foreign Secretary Robin Cook insisted today that he had nothing to apologise for over 3 reports leaked to him from the Commons Foreign Affairs Select Committee. The Conservatives have accused him of a grave abuse of Parliament and called for his resignation. Mr. Cook, who met the Russian Prime Minister Primakov in Russia today, said receiving the reports wasn't a crime and he hadn't acted on them in any way. Joining me now from Westminster is our political editor, Michael Brunson. Michael, is this a serious row?
It's serious, but I don't think Mr. Cook's job is at risk. In fact, it now really all becomes grist for the Commons Standards Committee mill. They'll have a look at it all, but I have to say it doesn't, in the long term, do much, in my view, for any claim Mr. Cook may have of being a great Foreign Secretary.
Mike, as we've done so many times on News at 10 over the years, look ahead for us to next week and the budget.
Well, yes, after 31 years, Trevor, there's a certain moisture in my eye tonight, I must admit, reporting for the programme. But yes, you're right, this is budget speculation weekend, and so, if you like, here's my list. I think it's going to be a very important budget for the environment. There are some measures coming up that we know about. The £50 reduction in car tax for some of the smaller engine cars now and for cleaner engines in the future. I think we're going to see the start of using energy taxes within industry to get energy used more efficiently in industry. And in addition, I think we're going to see some very important measures to help lower and middle income families, 10p starting rate of tax, quite a hefty hike in child benefit, I think, not to be taxed yet, but hints that may come. But much more about all this at 6:30 on Monday, when you and I no doubt will be talking again, and of course on Budget Day on Tuesday.
Michael Brunson, thank you.